Okay, I somewhat have an idea of where to go from here. Greetings, fellow worker slaves podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude located not far from the Redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts jumped up from my lap as soon as I said, greetings, fellow worker slaves. I wish I had it on video. It was the funniest fucking thing. He's like, oh, wait, are we on air now? Okay. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cats. Get over it. And Baines is fine. No sign of Buddha. Lord Squeakington is fine. And there's a whole lot of stuff I gotta talk about before I get to what will, in fact, actually be a Hexenhammer episode. Assuming I don't blather too long and I can actually find the file that Skullbeard sent me. Okay, for starters, let me tell you what's been going on around here that's really been weighing on my mind since I found out about it. Okay, for past year and a half, 2 years, across the street from the trailer park, there's been all this construction going on, and nobody really knew any details about what it was. Well, we finally got a news story telling us what it is. It is, and I shit you not, a $2.5 billion housing development. Now, some of you might be thinking, yeah, they're probably not going to want a lot, but have a trailer park across the street, so they're probably going to do something about that. Others of you might be going, well, they won't force Tucker out anytime soon, so what's the big issue? Hey? Here's the issue. $2.5 billion is one of the largest investments in this town that we've seen that I can recall in one whack like that. So, I can't see as them liking the idea of, these McMansions or whatever they're going to be putting up there, being near a trailer park. And the other issue that overwhelms whether or not they care about there being a trailer park here or not. There are basically 3 roads in and out of this town. One leads directly to an interstate. The other 2 are stop and go city traffic most of the way. I live along the one that is the straight shot to the interstate. So that means it's going to be really hard for me to get in and out of this place. Forget if I'm on my bike or if I'm in a car. It's going to be horrendous. Trust me, it's bad enough now as it is. And that place there, it's just going to make things worse. So I'm going to have to get out of here. And there is a significantly non-zero chance that my landlord at some point in the near future is going to sell this place out to a developer or whatever, because not too far down the road from where that development shed is being built is his other trailer park that he owns. He may own more, I don't know, but these two I know for certain he owns. So, and trust me, I grew up in New Albany, Ohio. Now, some of you may know that from certain The Limited and other brands owned by The Limited. They were all at one point based out of New Albany, Ohio. Others of you might know that in reference to what happens with Jeffrey Epstein, because he happened to be buddies with the guy who owned The Limited, and it's Jeffrey Epstein, it's The Limited, and Les Wexner. I think it's Lex Wexner. Anyways, the guy that owned The Limited bought up New Albany, Ohio, which is where I grew up, which was a little teeny tiny farming town of 5,000 people, and turned it into this place where, it's McMansions and shit like that. It's a nightmare. All the people who had lived there for generations farming the land were basically forced out. So, my landlord could be 100% straight up, most honest guy on the planet, but I know he doesn't have the kind of money to defend himself against lawyers who are backed by people doing $2.5 billion in investing in this area. So, that's a concern. So I got to get out of here at some point. Unfortunately, I can't take advantage of transferring with work right now because they deemed me out there by August. If all I had to do was get a license and, if all I had to do was pack this place up to move out there, not a problem. But I gotta deal with the license shit. I gotta deal with then getting a vehicle, then, fixing this place up, on and on and on. It just, I can't do it. I would like to, but I can't. However, that doesn't rule things out, because they do have an internal job posting system, so that at some point in the future, if there's a job that I'm qualified for, I can put in for it. Probably at that point they won't help pay to move me out there, but at least if I have a job out there, I can then work out the rest of the nitty gritty after I've taken care of everything around here. Okay, so I'm sure you're wondering where I'm going with all this. Okay. Everybody is familiar with the tip of the tongue phenomena, where You're trying to think of a word. It is on the tip of your tongue, but you can't express it. What is happening in this country on a myriad of levels is something that, if I try to explain it, it's a tip of the tongue phenomena. I got bits and pieces here and there, and I'm not claiming any great revelations or anything like that. I'm just saying I think this might be something. In his book on the screenwriting trade, I think that's the title of it, William Golding, the guy who wrote Princess Bride, right? So somebody who knows their shit when it comes to screenwriting. He talked about, you need a spine to hang a story off of. And so all that shit that I've read over the years that kind of relates to this is just sort of bouncing around in my noggin. And I have no idea how to make the spine and get it to sit, so I can say, yes, bing, 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 bing. So here's what I'm going to attempt to do. I say attempt because this work schedule is killing me and I don't know when I'll be able to get off of it. But anyways, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you will get a bonus episode that is me reading from a text which I think is highly relevant. For example, if you're a somewhat long-time listener, you will know that I have referenced The True Believer by Eric Hoffer a lot. I will be reading that because there's a whole lot of the shit he talks about that is applicable to today. I said way back when, I think 2016, that it was like, because I reread it then, it was like, wow, I feel like I'm reading a newspaper with this election coming up. And of course, you saw how that turned out. Good. So, and that means the stuff that everybody gets is going to be more or less the normal, news and then Hex and Hammer mix. But you may notice that there's certain times when, unlike the news episodes, I emphasize a particular story over another. Because that's, all the shit's bumping around in my head and I haven't quite figured out that spine. So if something happens that's current, that I think, if I can ever find that spine that's going to go on it, I will mention it in a news episode, regardless if it's seemingly a natural fit for it or not. Okay. Now, if I can find the fucking file, this will be Skullbeard and I reading something from Hex and Hammer, and I think we kind of figured out a title for the episode while we were reading it. But I don't know. If I can't find the file, then this is going to be a really short episode, and I apologize. And I'll get the right one up as soon as I can.
What is to be thought of wolves which sometimes seize and eat men and children out of their cradles, whether this also is a glamour caused by witches? Maybe the witch ate your baby.
You are recording, yes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
There is, incidentally, a question concerning wolves, which sometimes snatch men and children out of their houses and eat them and run about with such astuteness that by no skill or strength can they be hurt or captured. It is to be said that this sometimes has a natural cause, but is sometimes due to a glamour, which is when it is affected by witches. And as to the first, Blessed Albertus in his book On Animals says that it can raise from 5 causes, sometimes on account of great famine when stags and other beasts have come near to men, sometimes on account of the fierceness of their strength, as in the case of dogs in cold regions. But this is nothing to the point, and we say that such things are caused by an illusion of devils when God punishes some nation for sin. Because of course it is, right?
Yeah.
See Leviticus 26. If ye do not my commandments, I will send the beasts of the field against you, who shall consume you and your flocks. And again, Deuteronomy 32, I will also send the teeth of beasts upon them, etc. Yep, there's no way there's a plausible, natural explanation for a wolf coming into somebody's house and eating them. It's got to be witches. It's the devil, obviously.
Yeah. As to the question whether they are true wolves or devils appearing in that shape, we say that they are true wolves but are possessed by devils. And they are so roused up in 2 ways. It may happen without the operation of witches, and so it was in the case of the 2 and 40 boys who were devoured by 2 bears coming out of the woods because they had mocked the prophet Eliseus, saying, "Go up, thou bald head," etc. Also, okay.
Yeah, but this is bears, not wolves. We're talking bears.
Right, but his implication is it wasn't really God who did that punishment, it was devils.
Oh, obviously. But they're working for God, as we previously explained. And nothing happens without his permission. So really, this argument is rather circular.
Yeah. Also in the case of the lion, which slew the prophet who would not perform the commandment of God. 3 Kings 13. Yeah. And it is told that a bishop of Vienna, home of sausage, ordered the minor litanies to be solemnly chanted on certain days before the feast of the Ascension because wolves were entering the city and publicly devouring men.
How'd that work for you?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that occurs to me. There are photographs of Native Americans with pet wolves.
Yeah.
Okay, so Native Americans had domesticated dogs, and they also had wolves as pets.
Yep.
But in Europe, for some reason, at some point, we just stopped having wolves as pets.
Oh, because we had dogs by then.
Yeah, but the Native Americans had dogs by then as well. I mean, they've been tramping around here for 20-some thousand years, and I'm sure they brought their dogs with them, their pet wolves with them back then, because they would have had them.
Hey, before people brought horses to the Americas, they were the dog people.
This is one of those things that it's like, okay, there's some real weird stuff going on here, and your initial reaction is not necessarily the right one. It's one of those things you just got to keep in that gray area.
Yep.
There is a woman who she's Native American, she lives in Alaska, and she's got a doctorate. She's no dummies. But she said that actually horses weren't introduced back into the Americas by the Spaniards. They never went extinct. People have been making this shit up. And I'm like, well, okay, I can certainly see that we would try to suppress certain things about Native Americans being, kind of smart. I mean, they only did produce 60% of the crops that feed this planet today. They only, built things with as much precision as the Great Pyramids of Egypt, so they might have known a thing or two. There's accounts that she cites from Spanish records of Native Americans riding horses, and it's like, well, that's real early in, I mean, we're talking like 1500, and there's an account by a Spaniard of a Native American riding a horse, and it's like, yeah, if there weren't horses already here, it doesn't make sense how this tribe could have actually gotten the horses, because they were like really remote, and the Spaniards who encountered them were on foot and did not have any horses with them, so it's not like they had theirs stolen, and like there shouldn't have been horses in this area at this time. But they were. And it's like, I don't know about that, but apparently there's starting to come out some genetic evidence that maybe the horses were still here, which means that there's a whole shitload of stuff as far as Native American civilizations that had to have been erased and we have no records of because people were so freaked out. Because if you have horses and things like that, you've got fast communications, that's going to cause technological changes, and so your society is going to be pretty well advanced. So it may turn out that, on a technological level, the Native Americans were actually equal to the Europeans at the time the Europeans showed up, and it was just the fact that the Native Americans didn't have any immunity to the European diseases, that it wiped so many of them out that it allowed us to have the illusion that there weren't equivalent civilizations in the Americas at the same time. So
that, and they didn't have gunpowder, but
yeah. Yeah, well, gunpowder is one of those things that's most likely was invented once, and then people it spread that way. It's like one of those really rare things that somebody would discover and get to work. Sort of like Henrietta Lacks showing up and having cancer cells that fucking had more possibilities than anybody could have imagined back then.
Yep. Yeah. Immortal cell lines. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. But, in another way, it may be an illusion caused by witches, for William of Paris tells of a certain man who thought that he was turning into a wolf, and at times... You've seen American Werewolf in London?
Yeah.
William of Paris. But he was thought he was turned into a wolf, and at certain times went hiding among the caves, for there he went at a certain time, and though he remained there all the time stationary, he believed that he was a wolf, which went about devouring children, and though the devil, having possessed a wolf, was really doing this, he erroneously thought that he was prowling about in his sleep. And he was for so long thus out of his senses that he was at last found lying in the wood raving. The devil delights in such things and caused the illusion of the pagans who believed that men and old women were changed into beasts. From this it is seen that such things only happen by the permission of God. I called it.
Yep.
Along and through the operation of devils, and not through any natural defect, since by no art or strength can such wolves be injured or captured. Just not trying hard enough, buddy. In this connection, also, Vincent of Beauvais, in Special History 6, 40 tells that in Gaul, before the incarnation of Christ and before the Punic War, a wolf snatched a sentry sword out of its sheath. And your point is?
I'm just
Fetch.
I'm trying to, somewhere in there's a joke referencing that scene in Gladiator, frost. Sometimes it makes the blade stick, but I'm just not. I just can't. I can't get it. And that William of whatever that you're talking about.
William of Paris, yes?
Yeah. He's just some French nobleman who, joined a monastery or something. I don't see nothing really, scandalous or anything like that.
Or even relevant?
Yeah, Wikipedia entry. He was just sort of, he was the Mitt Romney of that era. We'll put it that way. You won't get all the connotations, but you'll get enough of them.
So he would be like the Wonder Bread of baguettes?
Yeah. He'd be somebody you don't necessarily like, but, you wouldn't be looking for a gun if they became president or something.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, now, on to part 1, question 11. I have no idea what the hell question 10 was. I mean, all that gibberish we were buried under.
The devil made me do it.
Yeah. That witches who are midwives in various ways kill the child conceived in the womb and procure an abortion. Oh, doggy. We may have hit a mother load here.
Yeah.
Or if they do not offer newborn children to devils. Oh, I think we hit something juicy.
We hit I think it is the mother load because we hit a little bit of satanic panic. We got some abortion stuff. This is very topical.
Yes.
Especially with the Comstock Act thing bullshit going on.
God, Jesus, man. That thing was so poorly written, medical textbooks couldn't even be sent through the mail.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. was late to adopt hand washing in medical facilities because of the Comstock Act.
Yep.
It slowed down the spread of the idea that hand washing was a good thing.
Yep, the Semmelweis reflex.
God.
Ignaz Semmelweis. There's a deep dive.
Yeah. I try to remember to post a meme about him every year I don't remember if it's the anniversary of his birth or his death, but, I do that because I'm like, hey, we got Darwin Day. This guy did as much for humanity as Darwin probably did, and nobody knows who he is, and he was murdered for his ideas. So you've got both Darwin and Giordano Bruno in the same guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the thing that pisses me off, I don't have a fucking sink at work to wash my hands in.
Really?
I have access to one about every hour and a half, maybe, if I have time to stop. No, I have a comfort station. I have a fucking porta potty with hand sanitizer that smells fucking awful.
Oh, dude, I've been shitting in a bucket for a while now.
Yeah.
I know what that's like. It ain't pretty.
Yeah, no.
And they're like, why do you go to the bathroom so much at work? I don't have water off in the house. So I kind of turned it on this weekend, but it got cold, and that bothers. And that shitty water heater I got just can't quite get the temperature up warm enough, so it wasn't worth it. I mean, we went from 80 degrees this week to back down to 60, which is pushing 40 C at the high, and then, back down to like 20 C at the low. So.
No, it wouldn't be that warm. God damn it. I got an app for your stupid freedom units. So 80 Fahrenheit would be 27 degrees Celsius. So that would be a nice warm day.
Yeah.
16 degrees? It didn't even get that warm today. So, I think we hit 14. And at 75 miles an hour, it's a little chilly.
Oh, Jesus, dude. You guys get wind. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I was on my motorcycle for most of the afternoon, so...
Oh, dude. I fucking feel you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we do get wind. I mean, it was leaning most of the time, but yeah.
I mean, I feel you, because occasionally we've gotten enough wind here that on my bike, with the motor fully engaged, I'm having to pedal to keep the thing going forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so, and I know what, you wouldn't think something as small profile as a person would be impacted by wind, but
quite painfully aware, actually.
Yeah.
The wind here is predominantly out of the west and can blow up to about 70, 75 miles an hour at times.
Yeah, that's an F0 tornado level.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking stiff breeze.
The
university is on the west side of the city. There's a river valley in between that and the north and south parts of the city, and I used to work on the extreme east side of the city. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd go to the university, and it's like into the wind, fucking head down, just grunting along in a low gear on my bike. And then in the afternoon, I'd ride across the whole city with a tailwind, so I could make good time on the way to work. And then on the way home, it's into the wind with your head down and just grunting along in first gear. So, yeah, quite painfully aware of that one.
My great-grandfather, maybe it was my great-great-grandfather, on my mother's side, was a doctor.
Yep.
And the family story that was, it's the only one I know about him. But so it's the one that was passed down. He, in the middle of winter, had to go out to help deliver a baby.
Yep.
And the wind was blowing in his face the whole way there. And it was, this was Ohio in the 1800s, so it was fucking cold.
Yep.
We're talking feet of snow on the ground and sub-zeros. It doesn't matter, freedom units or civilized units, it's fucking cold.
Yep.
And so he's praying the whole way there, dear God, please let the wind be blowing the other direction when I come home.
Dumbass.
yeah, you got it, man, you got it.
Yep.
When he went home, it was blowing in his face again.
Yep. Yeah. All right.
The canonists treat more fully than the theologians of the obstructions due to witchcraft, and they say that I guess that means there's supposed to be it is witchcraft. Yeah. Wicked witchcraft. Hey, Frank being a domestic abuser is kind of an appropriate reference for this text. not only when anyone is unable to perform the carnal act of which we have spoken of above.
Yeah, so when you got whiskey dick, okay.
But also when a woman is prevented from conceiving or is made to miscarry after she has conceived. A third and fourth method of witchcraft is when they have failed to procure an abortion and then either devour the child or offer it to a devil. Ooh.
Caliente. There is no doubt concerning the first two methods, since without the help of devils, a man can, by natural means, such as herbs, savin, for example, or other emmenagogues? Emmenagogues? I don't know. What the actual fuck is this word?
What the?
A substance that stimulates or increases menstrual flow. Emmenagag.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a word that needs to come back then, I guess.
Yeah. For like RU-486 or something.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Procure that a woman cannot generate or conceive, as has been mentioned above. But with the other two methods, it is different, for they are affected by witches, and there is no need to bring forward the argument, since very evident instances and examples will more readily show the truth of this matter. Yet no, if she weighs more than a duck.
Man.
Oh, now you get screwed here.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about the origins of some of that shit that dude's talking about. Because I don't know if you've ever heard of silphium.
Yes.
Right, that's the plant that the Romans caused to go extinct because they used it as a contraceptive.
Yep. They fucked it into extinction, yes. Well, maybe. There may be some wild subvariant still in existence.
Yeah,
but it's no longer
found some
known.
in Turkey.
Yeah.
That, based on what I've seen, I think it's the real shit, and we need to make CRISPR and make those plants, by the cajillions for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
But so that's, I'm wondering if somehow something of the silphium didn't pass down through the millennia, and that's where part of this came from.
Oh, could be. Could quite well be.
Yeah. Alrighty, now let's take this giant chunk of graph. Why don't you look up John Nider, Nider, because that motherfucker shows up in this and God knows what he is. The former of these two abominations is the fact that certain witches, against the instinct of human nature, and indeed against the nature of all beasts, with the possible exception of wolves, are in the habit of devouring and eating infant children. No, you motherfucker! Did you? I know someone who never had a hamster as a pet. Oh, god damn. God, I can't think of it. The album is Something Flowers. The album's name is Oof. One of the songs is on the album Happy Flowers. That's the name of the band. One of the songs on the album is Let's Eat the Baby Like the Hamsters Did.
Being a parent and having 3 kids, I can understand why Sometimes it might seem prudent to eat your young. Their only saving grace is they're fucking cute when they sleep. Okay, the John Nider, some old dead dude, 1380 to 1438. Wide reputation as a preacher and was active at the Council of Constance, an advocate of the strictest reforms. And something about annals of his order. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just dude.
Okay.
Seems rather unremarkable.
And concerning this, the Inquisitor of Como. I wonder who that was.
Perry.
Who has been mentioned before, has told us the following, that he was summoned by the inhabitants of the county of Barbie to hold an inquisition. What a show! Inquisition. There you go. Because a certain man had missed his child from its cradle, and finding a congress of women in the nighttime, swore that he saw them kill his child and drink its blood and devour it.
Dude, totally.
Yeah, sure you did, buddy.
Dude totally killed his baby.
Dude, that bread with the mold on it, you shouldn't have eaten it. Yeah, no. Also, in one single year, which is the year now last past, he says that 41 witches were burned, certain others taking flight to the Lord of Archduke of Austria, Sigismund, fuck that was. For confirmation of this, there are certain writings of John Nider in his Formicarius, of whom, as of those events which he recounts, the memory is still fresh in men's minds. Wherefore, it is apparent that such things are not incredible.
Yeah.
We must add that in all these matters which midwives cause yet greater injuries, as penitent witches have often told us, and to others, saying, no one does more harm to the Catholic faith than midwives, for when they do not kill children, then, as if for some other purpose, they take them out of the room, and raising them up in the air, offer them to devils. But the method which they observe in crimes of this sort... Oh, I'm sorry, I guess that's not supposed to be... Yeah, but, oh, dude, man.
It's just like that scene in The Lion King with the...
Right, which was taken from Roots, because that was an African tradition. Yeah, oh, God. This is the 1400s, so slavery not really a thing yet, but there's some pretty ugly seeds here, whatever.
Yeah, well... Proceedings of the Elders of Zion comes to mind.
Yep. But the method which they observe in crimes of this sort will be shown in the second part, which we must soon approach. Boy.
Do we
have
to?
At the time, I would have read that in the voice of the guy who did, this is the album of the soundtrack of the trailer to... of the film of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But first, one more question must be inquired into, namely that of the divine permission. For it was said at the beginning that three things are necessary for the effecting of witchcraft: the devil, a witch, and the divine permission. Yeah, God wills it so.
Yep. Ultimately, it all comes back to God did it.
Yeah. Y'all got part of God's plan.
So part 1, question 12. What was question 11 again?
I can find out.
Whether the permission of Almighty God is an accompaniment of witchcraft. Now we must consider the divine permission itself, touching which 4 things are asked. First, whether it is necessary that this permission should accompany a work of witchcraft. Secondly, that God in his justice permits a creature naturally sinful to perpetrate witchcraft and other horrid crimes, the other two necessary concomitants being presupposed. There's an awful lot of presupposition going on here in the first place, but whatever.
Presupposition, what a show. Presupposition, there we go.
Presups are the worst, man. Fucking Calvinists. Thirdly, that the crime of witchcraft exceeds all other evils which God permits to be done. Really? Like genocide and shit? Fourthly, in what way this matter should be preached to the people. Ah, there we go. You got your spin at the end. Very nice.
Talking about Calvinists, there's a group with a guy who is some variation of it.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, dude's a decent guy. He really is.
They can be.
You know, he's just one of these people who's blinded by his, upbringing and stuff, so he can't see his way out of things.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having a discussion about something dealing with Calvinism, and I'm like, but you guys believe in the tulip principle, right? And he's like, well, yeah. And he's like, what do you know about it? And so, you know what?
Total depravity.
What I know about it comes from George C. Scott in the movie Hardcore.
Uh-oh.
George C. Scott is a Calvinist.
Okay.
And this is set in, 1977. And I will tell you exactly how I know that in just a second. It's just like, fucking wow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, Calvinist, and his daughter has run away from home, and he's trying to find her. And he's got evidence that she's been making pornos in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So he goes out there to try and find her.
Was there a wah pedal involved?
No, dude. Dude, he goes into strip clubs, and not only do you have full frontal nudity, but you get how I know this movie was done in 1977. Because the strippers are wearing capes and battling one another with toy lightsabers in front of the Star Wars posters.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, so he winds up hiring this stripper to help him, navigate the underground in Los Angeles to try and find his daughter.
Okay.
And they have this talk, and he at one point in the movie, and he explains to her he's a Calvinist and he believes in the tulip principle, and then he lays it out.
Yeah,
and
depravity.
Don't ask me to explain it, but it's a whole bunch of predestination bullshit.
Yep.
And so, and dude laughs at it, and he's like, oh, no, that's really not what we believe. But then what he posted was like, no, actually it is. You just, you're so blinded by your religion, you don't see that you're describing the same things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, total depravity, unconditional election, limited atonement. So, sorry, Jesus. You're good. Irresistible grace and perseverance of the saints. That's the... You can be the worst piece of shit. All you got to do is say, sorry, Jesus, on Sunday, and you're golden.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the fuck you do.
All right. God damn. Fucking. I know where Monty Python got some of their shit now. Because this is clearly where the inspiration for thou shalt count to 3. Thou shalt not count too far. Thou shalt, and all that.
4 is too late and 2 is too early.
Yeah, exactly. Concerning the third postulate of this first part, namely the divine permission, it is asked whether it is as Catholic to affirm the divine permission in these works of witches, as it is quite heretical to contradict such an affirmation. Those were certainly all words.
yes, they were.
And it is argued that it is not heretical to maintain that God does not permit so great power to the devil in this sort of witchcraft.
But I thought they said he did. But
didn't they say he didn't? I'm so confused. For it is Catholic and not heretical to refute such things as appear to be to the disparagement of the Creator. And it is submitted that it is Catholic to maintain that the devil is not allowed such power of injuring men, since to hold the opposite opinion seems to be a disparagement of the Creator, for it would then follow that not everything is subject to the divine providence, since the all-wise provider keeps away as far as possible all defect and evil from those for whom he cares. And if the works of witchcraft are permitted by God, they are not kept away by him. And if he does not keep them away, the God himself is not a wise provider, and all things are not subject to his providence. But since this is false, therefore it is false that God permits witchcraft. Dude.
You just ended the answer to the previous question with God said it was okay to do it, and now you're saying no? I'm confused.
My head hurts.
Yeah, I know, right?
This is the part where the left half of your brain turns to the right half and says, "It's dark in here and we may die."
Yep. There's 5 lights. Or is it only 4? I don't remember. And again, to permit a thing to happen presupposes in him who permits it that either he can prevent it from happening if he wishes, or he cannot prevent it even if he wishes, and neither of these suppositions can apply to God.
Oh.
Okay, so we got a black or white fallacy? For in the first case, such a man would be thought spiteful, and in the second case, impotent. They got a pill for that. Then it is incidentally asked, as to that bewitchment that happened to Peter, if God could have prevented it and did not do so, then God is either despiteful or he does not care for all. But you might be onto something there, just stay with it. But he could not have, but if he could not have prevented it, even if he wished, the he is not omnipotent. You guys are so fucking close. But since it is not possible to maintain the opinion that God does not care for all and the rest, therefore it cannot be said that witchcraft is done with the permission of God. It's so fucking close.
Okay, dude, if we keep this up, I'm going to start smelling toast. And not in a good way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, there's a reason why I don't engage with them anymore on Twitter. Or in real life if I can avoid it.
Yeah. Ooh. I don't know what I'm going to call this episode, but boy, toast is a possibility.
Uh-huh.
Hey.
Could be, I'm so confused. Maybe the witches ate your baby.
I mean, it is.
Of wolves and men, I don't know.
Bark at the loon.
Mm-hmm. Fucking people actually believe this shit?
Okay. Okay, are you familiar with the movie Eddie and the Cruisers?
Rings a bell, but
It came out in the 80s. It didn't. It was unique because it did almost nobody watched it in the theater.
Yep.
It went to HBO. People watched it there, loved it so much that they put it back in the theater, and then it made all kinds of money there.
okay.
Okay, but it's basically a
So not like not like Morbius, but
not like Morbius. And it actually is a good movie. The idea is there was this really popular 50s rock band called Eddie and the Cruisers.
okay.
And right at the peak of their fame, the lead singer dies. And the last recording disappeared with him.
Oh, okay.
And so, and the movie is set in, the present day, which was the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And, somebody's gone around and doing shit, and it leads somebody to find the missing recordings.
But of course.
Right. And so, the final scene of the movie is, and people standing in front of an electronics store watching a news broadcast talking about the discovery of the missing record and playing it. And the camera pans around to the people so you can see the faces of the people watching it. And a buddy of mine who was talking about the movie goes, and I swear to God, man, one of the dudes there looked just like Eddie. The lead singer who disappeared. And it's like, yo, dude, it was the same fucking actor. It's not like, this is something real or anything. I mean, it's a, if you're a whole fan of the Jim Morrison conspiracy theory that was popular for a while, that he wasn't really dead.
Yeah.
It's an appealing movie, and I mean, the music in it is good, and it's not a musical, so.
Okay. Well, what the hell, man? Elvis used to live in Lethbridge, so I'm sure he did. I've seen him.
Elvis ate fried peanut butter and bacon sandwiches.
Oh, peanut butter and banana fried in bacon grease.
I was someplace
I can feel it right here. Just thinking about it.
It was someplace in Denver, I think. And he would call them and say, "This is Elvis. I want you to stay open. I'm coming in." And so they would stay open until Elvis showed up. Because, it's like, damn, dude, It's like there was a thing when I was a kid in high school. The top radio station, they would play these bits of different things, and one of them was the Elvis tapes. It was secret recordings that Elvis had made with his phone, phone calls, and it had him at one point. I forget what all he was doing. Who all he was calling. But the last one, he called Priscilla, and he's like, "Baby, I need you to come back, and if you could, I need you to bring some jelly cream donuts, true jelly cream donuts." And it starts singing some Elvis tune mentioning donuts, and whoever the woman is who's doing Priscilla is going, "Oh, Elvis, no." And there was some weird fundy church, not in this town, but in the town over, that had, they called their church the Throne Room.
Of course.
And I'm like, oh, wow. And I mean, all I can think of is Elvis died on the throne.
That's it for this episode of the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes. It's also on Stitcher, and most of the episodes are on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter at tparkatheist, and it's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist. You can email me at trailerparkatheist@gmail.com. Show notes can be found at tparkatheist.blogspot.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to donate to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker.
The podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.